Hey y'all, welcome to this bonus episode of Pink Shade. Today I'm so happy to chat with the one and only Miss Debbie from 90 Day the Other Way and now 90 Day the Single Life. This video is going to also be available on YouTube. So if you're listening on audio, you can head over to YouTube and the link will be in the show notes. Now, if y'all don't know, I met Miss Debbie when I was in New York at the 90 Day 10-year anniversary party. I was so happy when I found out she's going to be on this season of The Single Life because we need to find Debbie somebody besides Osama. And I'm covering 90 Day the Single Life over on Pink Shade Prime with Meredith. So everybody go over there and take a listen. But this is just a bonus episode for everybody today because everybody wants to hear from Miss Debbie. How you doing, Debbie?
I'm doing great. And you know what, girl? I still got some glimmer left.
Look at you. Your outfit is on point. I would expect nothing less. Now, do you dress like this every single day, Debbie?
Yes, I do. And to me, it is my fun of let's pretend. It's like life is our own book. So let's dress for it.
Yeah, that's fun. I could barely swipe on some lipstick. I mean, and I'm from the South and my mother would always be like, just want to put just a little something on the face before you leave the house. I'm like, so I kind of grew up that way, but as I've gotten older and busier, not so much. But I did it for you today, Debbie. I put on some lipstick.
Look gorgeous.
Well, thank you. You always look gorgeous. Now, I want to hear about where you grew up because I don't think you grew up in the South, but you moved to the South. Give me the story on that.
Well, I grew up in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
And it was tough. I came from a very dysfunctional family, but at a young age, at around 19 years old, I moved to South Carolina and got married and
Mm-hmm.
then moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And so I've been in the South. Well, gee whiz, Julian's like 40 and I've been here, or 42, and I've been here since he's been 4 years old. So
So,
I am a Southerner.
yeah, so way longer than you were in Ohio. You've been
Right,
in
right.
Georgia. Yeah. Now,
Now, I
Sugar
could say,
Hill is Sugar Hill a suburb of Atlanta? Is it just outside?
yes, Sugar Hill is a suburb of Atlanta. There are many suburbs around Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you raised your kids there and Sugar Hill has always been home, really?
Basically, Sugar Hill or Snellville, where Chantel's from.
Oh, that's that. Yeah. Oh, isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Now you seem, Debbie, so well traveled. You seem like you've traveled all over. I want to hear a Miss Debbie travel story.
Wow, I've got so many. Here's a fun one.
Okay.
My ex-husband was a very kind of a disciplinarian guy, and we went to Paris, and it was like my dream come true. And there I saw in the Louvre, down the big aisleway, the Venus de Milo, the
Yeah.
statue. And
Hmm.
I grabbed his arm and started running up to it. And when I got up to it and turned around, it was a strange man. It wasn't my husband. I was so excited. I just latched onto this guy and he just looked at me and smiled. It's like, but see, that's what excitement and enthusiasm does to a person.
That is hilarious. I was just in Paris in December at the Louvre, and our guide who had studied at the Louvre took us around and showed us the three famous women of the Louvre. And of course, one was Mona Lisa, one was Venus de Milo, and one was the Nike, which is the
Wing victory. Mm-hmm.
yes. And then then she explained how the guy came up with Nike after seeing that. And I was just there, and it really my daughter's artistic, and she was like, we could have spent a whole week in the Louvre.
Yes, yes.
It's just incredible. Well, that is funny, Debbie. Now, did your husband get mad at you? Did he say, "Why are you trying to run off with this man?"
He was just exasperated. It's like, he gave me one of those looks and shook his head. I'm used to people shaking their head at me. And to me, I'm just excited in the moment.
I know. I was excited when I was in the Louvre too. Everything. And it's interesting too, because when we saw the Mona Lisa, of course, it's in this huge room because there's so many
Right.
people. But what I loved was our guide took us and showed us a different painting that the person that did Mona Lisa studied with this guy and showed us that painting. And we stood in front of it for a long time. And it was the same thing. The eyes would follow you and everything. And they
Exactly.
said, this picture took 6 months and Mona Lisa took like 4 years. but no one's looking at this picture, but this one's actually superior. That's
Right,
what I like. I like to get like the inside scoop and then keep it moving. That's what I liked.
right.
Now, where is the farthest place you've been? Is the farthest place you've been Morocco?
Oh, no. I've been to Taipei, Taiwan, and in the
Wow.
province of Kaohsiung. I've been in
Uh-huh.
the jungles of southern Taiwan. And I'll
Wow.
tell you, I went down there in like a World War II freight train. But,
Mm.
I've always had the spirit of adventure and took my son Julian with me. He was only like a year old. Boy, I was brave, I'll tell you, back then, if you had a baby with you on a plane, you didn't get to go to the head of the line and sit down. And if your kid cried, people would give you hateful looks. And it was tough back then, traveling with a child.
But why were you going to those places? Just with your
Well,
husband's job, or were you just like, this is just a place you wanted to go?
no, Julian's father is from Taiwan. So I
Oh.
had went there to show the grandson to my husband's father and their village, and they
Yeah.
were just thrilled and just so happy, and they treated me so good. It was a good, nice feeling. And I got to go to the museums over there, the Chiang Kai-shek Museum, the National Museum in Taipei. And even then, I was really young, I think only 23 or 24. I really just wanted to soak up all the artwork around me.
Yeah. Wow, I mean, you're pretty young to have all this travel and all these like amazing memories. I hope that you've put it down in a book, put it down in writing.
Well, I do have a journal and uh, I guess about 1,000 poems
Hmm.
about life. I consider myself a female version of Khalil Gibran, and he wrote so many wonderful poems and sayings and short stories about your life and what molded you and what
Yeah.
saved you.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
consider, you know, it's like hanging on to life when everyone would let go.
Yeah.
I hung on.
Absolutely. I think that'd be a pretty interesting, there would be a good book, Debbie. You could do the book and you could intersperse like your poems and your art with your
Right.
stories.
Hmm.
Nobody steal that idea. Somebody get Debbie on that. Now, we've seen your son Julian, you mentioned. We've seen him on the show. He's super sweet. He like reached out to me on Instagram, was like, "My mom wants to send you a video." I was like, "Go ahead." It's so cute. It's really cute. We see him on the show. He helps you out a lot. He seems like a wonderful son. But you also told me at the 90-day party that you have a daughter that you mentioned on the show,
Yes.
and you're equally as proud of your daughter as you are for your son. But will we
Yeah.
ever see your daughter on the show, or is she just like, no way?
Well, I keep nudging her and
Yeah.
saying, Sandy, my daughter is very intelligent. She's a graphic artist and computer whiz as far as working for big corporations and designing their websites and what have you. And it's funny about her. She even worked once for one of those Middle Eastern kings. And whenever they do the project, they said, "Well, wait, we have to show the king." And my daughter used to get a kick out of that. Well, they gotta let the king okay it first. So
Oh my gosh. She went
so
to
proud of her.
SCAD. You said she went to SCAD?
Yes, she did.
Yeah,
She
she's gotta be
graduated from
talented.
SCAD. Yes, she is. I'm very proud of her because she has an engineer as a father and an artist as a mother. What a wonderful, marriage of two worlds she had.
Yeah. She's got that art brain and maybe that math brain too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you don't find that very often. Okay, so you're nudging her, but you don't know so far if we're gonna see her.
Well, she told me that when I get my project off the ground, the Wild Art Studio and Animal Sanctuary, she will come work it with me. So I know she's going to do that. And we're going to be, in the public eye. And you know me, I love people.
Yeah,
I want to just hug them and encourage them because we are living in tough times and it's stressful for our young people and our
yeah,
seniors.
agree. I agree. Well, that leads me into my next question, which I love the idea you went when we opened up the season with you on Single Life, you're at the Alpaca Farm.
Yeah.
Now, I think that was the greatest idea because what you said on the show, guys, if you missed it, Miss Debbie was saying she wants to open like a petting zoo with these alpacas, but also make it an art studio. Let me tell you what, if I was a kid and my field trip was to go to like a cool petting zoo and then go in and do like a fun art project to take home with me, that would be the best field trip. That would be the best day ever.
And it's true. That's why I'm in touch with my inner child, because and also I'm sensitive to emotional wellness, because I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of things that children shouldn't have to see. So I said to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful to establish this mini farm as a animal sanctuary and a sanctuary for people, and to encourage their creative abilities, not
Yeah.
just art, but all forms of the art and music. So I think that would be a good legacy of me to leave behind. A lot of people making fun of me, saying, oh, I'd rather pass on than be what she's doing. But guess what, y'all? It's like, I'm leaving something good for others. At
Yes.
my age, this is for others to carry the torch,
Yeah.
for me,
I think it's a
because
great idea.
and me, I'm always saying, let's put the kind back into humankind. And we so need it for our children. They've taken so many art programs out of our public school system,
Right.
which stifles a lot of creativity. And
Yeah.
so many kids need to explore their creativity.
I think so too. And I think sometimes, my kids are 20 and 18, and my son is still in high school. But I think about that a lot. About my favorite part of school was kind of that break you get in the day to go to art or go to
Exactly.
PE, to have sort of a break where you don't have to just sit and be so rigid. You could actually, hang. The art teacher was always the coolest, so you wanted to always be in the art room. I mean, I'm no artist at all, but it was just fun. It
Right.
was just fun.
It's a more relaxed atmosphere. You don't feel judged. You don't feel under pressure. You're kind of encouraged to just blossom. And that's what I love about the studio idea I've come up with, and the animals. And then I'll have a small area to teach children about planting and organic foods. And then with our small harvest, we would donate to the food banks. So it's a multifunctional place
Yeah.
that can benefit so many.
I think it's a great idea. Now, are you, because I know we saw on the show you went and met with the couple that owned the alpaca farm. And
Yes.
what's so interesting too is on 90 Day, the regular that's on right now, the girl in there, Annalie, is from Peru, and she wanted to have an alpaca at her wedding.
Right,
They
right.
couldn't they couldn't find one. I was like, you could have found
You
one because
you can find them. You
yeah.
can find them.
Now, do the alpacas like to be dressed up in sunglasses and
Well,
scarves?
they're very docile. I've done
Yeah.
a lot of research on them and with the USDA, and they like their herds. So I'd have to get probably at least 4 or 5 of them.
Mhm.
And you can acclimate them with other gentle, like-minded animals.
Yeah.
So yes, but you know what? It takes that loving touch. And I've got that with animals, and I would be very vigilant as to their welfare and their comfort zone. So, I've been doing all my homework on my end to make this project come to fruition.
No, so where are you on the project? Because, like, I wanna come. I mean, where are you on the project? Like, how far along are you, and when will it come to fruition, do you think?
Okay, well, I've saved all my money from my
Okay,
TLC earnings plus
okay,
my own earnings, and all the funds I receive from my website where I sell my art and semi precious gemstone jewelry.
yes,
And then I'm putting it out there via the media. I would like to have a partner to team up with, and
yeah,
realize that this is something honorable.
yeah,
And I could use some help, perhaps either setting it up as a nonprofit, which
mhm,
would be ideal, or if some public television studio would like to get in on it. It
yeah,
would be such a great learning and fun.
yeah,
Learning and laughter go hand in hand, and that's when you remember things the most, when you're actually feeling it.
you're right, and like I said, if I was a kid getting on a school bus to go to a field trip, I would so much rather do that to do some of the other stuff they make you do on field trips, when you were little. Well,
Right.
I think that's great, Debbie. I really, when I first saw that, I was like, she's kind of onto something. I think that's a great idea. But what you just said about your website literally led me into my next question was, we've seen so much of your amazing art, and your house a little bit reminds me of my sister. My sister is also an artist. So in her home, she has art everywhere, right? But it's not always her art. It's other art that she's bought and artists that she supports and she loves. And she has so many amazing paintings all over her house. And your house reminds me of the same. And what the first episode we saw of you, you're working on this painting that you said you started before you went to Morocco. And then when you came back, you switched it up. You made
Right.
Osama look a little devilish. And then when I met you in New York, you had that necklace with the alligator with the tiny little man on the inside.
Yes, the bite me necklace. I almost wore it today.
It's so great. So you do have a website where you sell, because your stuff is so unique. It's not like anything else you'll see. So you do sell the stuff on a website. I didn't know if we had to come to Sugar Hill to see your stuff.
It's on a website, and that's how I'm funding the Wild Ark Studio and Animal Sanctuary with my sales from my limited edition signed prints and my
Okay.
semi-precious gemstone jewelry.
Okay. And what is the website? What's it called?
It's www.gemhouse.studio on Shopify.
Okay. So
And
I'm writing this down. Gymhouse.studio on Shopify.
yep, that's it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go look, because every time I see the stuff in your house, and even that painting that you were working on at the beginning where you were I was like, I'd like to have that. And it was like, look at that. That's
Oh, thank
incredible.
you.
You're really talented. Did you ever work as an art teacher, or have you always just been like a free spirit artist?
I, as a child, art was my go-to safe place.
Mhm.
So whatever pencils or crayons, it was like, okay, let's just get away from all the abuse and find our safe place. And art was my safe place.
Yeah.
That's why our young people need it. They're going through things, and what better way to express yourself, either through the written word or through some sort of art or
Yeah.
creative project.
Yeah. Well, I think it's such a great idea. Okay, so everybody go shop on Miss Debbie's site. Now, um, how let's just roll it back. And I believe you told me this when we met in New York, but I cannot remember, because you were pouring those Texas margaritas, and
Yep, they
I
were
was
so good
they
too.
were good. I was having my Cosmo. So you answered this question, but you have to remind me of the answer, because I asked you, how did you first find out about the 90-day franchise to even get on it in the first place with your relationship with Osama in Morocco?
It was so funny because everything was during COVID. And,
Mm,
I had thought of moving to Paris, and I had stayed there for 2 months during COVID and was
mhm.
seriously looking for an apartment.
Yeah.
And instead, my kids wanted me home. So I, swung by Morocco, which when I met Osama, and then, everything happened.
But you had
And
met him
then
but you had met him online before.
oh yes,
Yeah,
for
okay.
years.
Okay.
What was it? 3 years before I actually met him in person,
Okay.
because he was so kind, and we had so much in common as far as poetry and painting, and we had more of a conservative background when it comes to dating and that type of thing, and
Mhm.
and then it's like he became real to me too fast, but then I hurry up and left. I said, this guy is way too young.
Yeah.
So I understand that Osama wasn't the right one for me, especially whoever's watched the show had seen how he treated me. But I
Yeah.
said at that point, it looks like God had turned me around and said, go back to the United States and help
Yeah.
the people here through art and creativity.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I started the painting and then changed it because it hurt, to be
Yeah.
dissed in front of the whole United States and the world. But I'm telling you, when I first, we discussed about being on this, and we were saying, like, we were just joking online.
Yeah.
No, it'll never happen, but just do it anyways and see what happens. And I did it with some simple little application. I put, maybe a paragraph or
Oh,
two,
really? Really? Okay.
nothing much. And then after several months, I forgot all about it. And then every now and then, someone from TLC would say, well, what are you doing now? And at
Mm-hmm.
one point, I was on my way to Morocco in November.
Yeah.
But then, because of that COVID variant called Omicron, I
Right.
had tickets and everything. They closed the door on Morocco.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and then they called me and I said, well, look, I had my ticket. I was supposed to go. And for all they knew, I was gone. But somehow they called and checked. And I said, well, I didn't get to go. But as soon as the ban is lifted, I'm going back. And that's when they started to be interested. And then I told Osama, I said, Osama, they might be getting interested. Do you sure you still want to do this? And he said, no. And then I said, okay, fine. Okay, we won't do
Yeah.
this. And then a week later, he changed his mind. He said, okay, let's try to do this. Because I kept telling him we can help other artists and poets. And I said, this would be a great thing, and people would see the good we're doing in the world.
Uh-huh.
That
Right.
was my thinking back
Yeah.
then. And then he said, yeah, go for it. And so I continued the conversation. And then the next thing you knew, they're knocking on my door and they're coming with the cameras. And I'm thinking, oh, damn, I haven't even told my kids anything. It's like, I knew I was in big trouble because, I like to, fly under the radar. I don't want my kids up in my business,
Well, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but they got in my business.
Oh my gosh. So you're not talking to Osama anymore, thank goodness.
No, not anymore.
Okay. But I wonder if I don't think they have TLC in Morocco, so he doesn't have a way to see you on the single life right now unless he has like a VPN.
I don't know, but they do get the single life in Morocco. Do you know I have lots of nice fans and government officials in Morocco? And they've even invited me back and said I could have an art show in that city. What's that city called? It's next to Marrakesh, where the earthquake happened about a year ago.
Yeah. Listen,
Agadir.
I don't know.
Agadir. They invited me, the city of Agadir, to come do an art show with a wonderful young man named Mubarak. And because he knew my intention is to help the folks and give them an outlet to make money, a venue so they can make money to supplement their income.
Right.
Yeah, I was on to things for the people of Morocco, but God pointed me back to the USA and says, Debbie, time to get to work here. I
Yeah.
may be old, but I still got a lot of energy and focus because I have a lot of empathy for people that have been victims of abuse, bullying, and depression. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm here for, is to help those folks because I've been through it all myself.
It's like art therapy, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, art and animal therapy, and
Mhm.
having people that will listen. When I came up, there was no place to go or no one to listen. So
Right.
it's like, I want to be the conduit to help people before they snap and go over the edge. And I'm all for suicide prevention. We have too much suicide. Our nation, I think, leads the world in as far as young people suicide statistics.
I know.
And I can be the intervention to the start and have this be like a domino effect. Have this become what we're fighting for. We're fighting for people not to sink in to where they feel their life is worthless.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's wonderful. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
So, okay, so now you're on the single life and they come knocking on your door and say, Debbie, we think you need to get out there and date again. So you say, all right. Now, we saw the one guy, was his name Tony? The guy?
Russ. You talking
Russ.
Russ?
He looked like a Tony. Well, okay.
Yeah,
So Russ,
Mhm.
he played mini golf. That looked fun.
Yeah.
And then you just blurted out all your business on the first date.
Yes.
Debbie, you got to have a little chill. You can't tell somebody everything right at the beginning. You got to ease them into it.
Right. And you know why? I think I overshared. I felt so guilty about lying about my age. And I says, well, I might as well tell him all the ugly stuff and get it out because, I felt very insecure. and I don't want to wind up getting hurt. And,
Yeah.
Russ is a nice guy, he's a decent, good human being.
Yeah,
And,
he seems like a nice guy.
yeah. And he did contact me after that date,
Yeah.
even though a lot of people are saying, boy, I'm glad he's out of there. No, we were to go on a dinner date, but I
Yeah.
was too tired and exhausted from all the filming and the emotion. That's a
Yeah.
lot of emotion. It's like, you feel exhausted. It feels like you've been through a marathon. So I
Yeah.
said, Russ, can we set up the dinner date some other time? Oh, honey, he got ticked off. He thinks that maybe I used him. And you know me, I'm not using anybody. I'm scared, if anything. This is
Yeah.
new territory for me. And I need, someone to help me with dating. I know like absolutely nothing about dating. And
Yeah.
number one, I got one foot on the dance floor and the other foot on a tombstone. It's like, hey, what I need to know what to do. And I'm too trusting sometimes. You see how it went with Osama. I trusted him with everything. And he
Yeah.
spoke 4 languages fluently. He had a very high IQ and, a quiet person and wasn't all touchy-feely, that kind of guy, which really scares me off. He was a
Yeah.
gentleman. And I'm looking for a gentleman, except an age-appropriate gentleman.
It was just a little too young. A
Yeah.
little too young. Um, so on this last episode that we've seen of the Sing Alive, you're going to meet a guy named Reuben. Now we haven't met him on the show yet, but I have to tell you, when they've shown this guy in Miami, he looks like an older version of Osama.
That's funny you say that. But maybe, except he's oh gosh, I don't know. It's like he's more traditional as far as he's into race cars and business. And I'm looking for a warm, romantic side. I don't know about you girls nowadays, but I like to be romanced. It's like I can't feel any attraction for anyone unless they're romancing me and
Mm,
they're saying things that I can respect and look up to. And so I'm trying to figure out, is Reuben going to be the one? I don't know. It's like, I feel like, the oldest teenager in the world trapped inside of an old lady's body. It's like, I wish I knew.
Okay, so coming up, we will see you dating Reuben.
Yes.
That's what's coming next. Okay. So I know you can't tell me anything past Reuben.
Right.
But you're watching the season. Are you enjoying anybody else? Is anybody else making you cringe or worried?
Well, I enjoy watching the show. I don't like watching myself, but I like
Right.
watching the other folks.
Yeah.
John is really nice, and I think he gets some. He doesn't get the right break sometime from his family. I think his family is kind of mean to him. And
Mm.
Chantal, like I spoke about, she's coming from a place of heart.
Remember, Debbie, okay, let's because I cover every single one of these 90-day
Yeah,
shows extensively. So I always have so many couples running through my brain. So sometimes I have to think like Debbie was on the other way. I have to think about who was on what show, and then they go
right.
on secondary shows or they're on Pillow Talk and tell all. I have to try to remember.
Mhm.
Okay, so on your tell all with Osama,
Yes.
trying to remember, you were on somebody's side and people did
Yeah.
not like it. Who was
Okay,
it?
Chris, I'll tell you one thing.
Right.
As much as I know about mental health
Uh-huh.
and dangerous situations and
Right.
people that are teetering on the edge,
Yes.
I knew I had to open my mouth, even though I knew I was going to get a lot of hate. But what kind of person would I be if something horrible happened to Chris because I kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to be, you know what? For evil to overcome is for good men to say nothing.
Mm.
And I do not
Mhm.
like it when everyone's ganging up on a person. And Jamie with the tissue to the eye stuff,
Yeah.
I watched that video very closely. There was no tears coming out of her eyes. And you guys can check that video footage. I
Mhm.
talked to Chris's mom.
Mhm.
Chris's mom, yeah, you can flash up proof on a phone of one screenshot. But do you see what went on in a period of a couple of years? It was over
Yeah.
$7,000 that went down there to a attorney that
Yeah.
supposedly has, and then everyone's accusing Chris of drugs, whether she does drugs or not. I know victims of child abuse, and Chris was a victim of child abuse. She told me, and we had a long talk. Victims of child abuse have very high statistics to become users of drugs to
Right.
cover their pain.
Right.
I knew all this because I sat next to her in the makeup and in the hairdressing room,
Yeah.
and I could see how fragile she was to a
Yeah.
total breakdown that
Yeah.
night. And so I still get hate to this day over that.
Okay, because I was trying to remember. I was like, okay, because when you were saying that, I was like, I was remembering you were on somebody's side that people were like, "Why are you on their side?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kept saying, well, Chris didn't support her. Chris took off and this, that, and that. Chris couldn't afford Jamie is what it all boiled down to. And
Yeah.
yeah, Chris, has a past of abuse. And, my heart goes out to those that have suffered extreme child abuse. I'm not talking about little child abuse. I'm talking about where someone's got scars on the body. And,
Yeah.
I knew that. So I had to do the right thing, like it or not. And guess what? I've got good news. I'd hate talking about bad news.
Okay.
Get this. Here's some more tea, but you might
Okay.
know this. Rishi, remember Rishi and
Yeah.
Jen? They were on My Tell
Yeah.
All.
Yeah.
Guess who invited me to Rishi's wedding? Rishi invited me to India. He's fixing to get married to some young India girl.
I saw he posted that.
Yeah, I kind of want to go, but it's like, I'm kind of upset with his mother because his mother was kind of mean about
Totally.
adoption and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, but, to me, we all brothers and sisters. We're all human beings, and that's what matters. So, I like Rishi. He's always been kind and gentle, and he did cry real tears. I
I
do
think he
believe
really
he
loved
loved
Jen
her.
a lot. It was just their circumstances.
He
It's sort of
couldn't
like
do it
Jenny and Submit. You have to be willing to just
to
leave your
go.
family
Damn
for
it.
the
Yeah.
other person, and he wasn't willing to do that.
Right. So part of me wants to go to Jaipur, and he
Yeah.
invited Julian too. So I'm thinking about it, but it's coming up real soon, like the
I
first part
oh,
of
I'm
February.
dying to go to an Indian wedding. Aren't you dying to go to an Indian wedding?
Yeah, but boy, I gotta decide. I need that chunk of change for the wild arc.
That's
So it's
true.
like I can't take the money away from my project, but I keep thinking, oh God, it'd be nice. But someday maybe there'll be India waiting for me to come visit.
I
You
know.
never know.
Those weddings, they look so incredible. I was
I
like, "Oh
know.
my
It's
god."
like party for days. And he even listed there's several days we get to wear outfits,
Yeah.
gorgeous outfits in different color themes. It's like, oh, it's got Debbie written all over it. It's like, oh, I want to go so bad. But I've got to make some self-sacrifices for the greater good. So that's the way I look at it.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me ask you this. What do your friends, because we saw a couple of your friends this season, what do your friends think about you filming this show?
Well, the strange thing is I have a wonderful new friend named Anna.
Mhm.
She is the most supportive person. And,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes I get over involved in my artwork and kind of, I can be kind of reclusive at times. So, here's an example. My refrigerator didn't have a filter in it for over a year, even though the filter was brand new in the box, because me and Julian didn't know how to put it in. She
Okay.
got her husband to put it in, and I've got ice cubes for the first time in over a year. And she's nice to me. She's telling me, Debbie, you need to tape these shows. And I said, I don't know how to tape them on my TV. And then she shows me interviews that I never knew existed. And she's helping me because
Good.
I'm not, what do you call it? Oh, let me see what I'm doing on the internet. No,
Yeah.
I've got work to do to encourage others that are
Yeah.
suffering depression. I've got artwork to do. I've got my business. I've got the plan for the wild art. So, she's helping me realize, yeah, we can have a life too, as far as having friends and doing things.
Yeah.
So she watched the single life with me Monday, and we had fun and we're laughing, and I was embarrassed. I said, some of these shots, I look old as hell, and what did they do to my eye makeup? It looks like whatever. Because you look at me, this is me. This
You
is
look
my
great.
filter.
Yeah.
And then I look at myself on TV and I'm like, damn, I'm scared.
Well, that's what they say about TV. They say it adds 10 pounds and adds 10 years. So that's why
Yeah,
everybody in Hollywood's always trying to be like super skinny and then
right.
super Botox because you got to add that 10 years and 10 pounds, right?
Right. Got to do something. But yeah, and speaking of Botox, some of these folks on the 90 day, they get a lot of work done and they're real young. And I'm
I
really
know.
old and I'm saying, hey, give me some of that little tweaks and stuff, I'll take it. I don't know how they afford it
It is expensive, I
Yeah.
got to tell you.
Mm.
Well, our TLC lady is telling us to wrap it up, so we have to
Okay.
wrap it up. But I love chatting with you, Debbie. And anytime if you want to DM me or give me your cell
Oh,
phone number, we can keep in touch. I love
yeah,
chatting with you. I
I
find
will.
you to be encouraging. I find you to be inspirational and
Thank
delightful.
you.
And so tell everybody where to find you on Instagram, and from Instagram they can link to all the other things, Miss Debbie.
Okay. On Instagram, it's a verified account. It's me. It's under Unicorn Rodeo Rider. And that's kind of me. So they can find me on Instagram or on Facebook. I'm Debbie Aguero. But, and also I have an Instagram account that's called the Wild Ark Studio and Animal Sanctuary, where I'm starting to put together, the pieces and
Yeah.
promotion for the Wild Ark Studio. So that's on a different Instagram. But if they go to
Okay.
my Instagram page of Unicorn Rodeo Rider and they look through the encouraging videos that I do to help others,
Yeah.
they'll find out.
Yeah. You do a lot of great over there. All right, everybody, make sure to follow Debbie and please watch 90 Day The Single Life. And again, I'm covering it over on Pink Shade Prime. And if you want to see this video of me and Debbie, you'll go over to our YouTube. It's going to be linked. And Debbie, don't hang up, but we're going to hang up this and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, good. Thank you, and God bless y'all.
Thank you.